Good afternoon and welcome to your next session, Learning Matters. I'm Rob Gilby, Managing Director of International for Age of Learning. Now, we all know the pandemic has impacted all industries across the globe, and education is no exception. It's accelerated an existing trend of using technology to bring learning to all. We've seen increasing investment in the edtech sector and demand from students, parents, and educators for solutions. These solutions have taken many forms: content, software, learning systems, tutoring, and many others. In Asia, we have some of the most innovative and scalable edtech markets in the world. Joining me today from two of our largest markets are two passionate and innovative founders and pioneers who are changing the way education is conducted in their markets, and they're leveraging digital technology to do so. The first is Ganesh Pai. He is founder of Don't Memorize, and he's changing the learning methods of maths and education in India and using channels such as YouTube to do that. Our second speaker is Gerald Sebastian, co-founder of Kok Bisa, which is an Indonesian company focused on education media, and their mission is to bridge the gap in science, information, and society through friendly content and engaging activities. So let's dive straight in. My first question, guys, for you is, what motivated you to start this business? Why did you choose digital platforms such as YouTube to drive that growth and as the best way to deliver learning outcomes? Ganesh, can I start with you?
Sure. Thanks, Rob, for having me. The start of my journey, it dates about 6 years ago. I was working, and one day I quit my job, and I knew that I really wanted to be an educator. I realized that was my calling, and I was having a discussion with my dad about my plans for the future. So I told him, when I was having a discussion with my dad, I told him that I prepared a business plan of how I could open 5 offline or brick and mortar centers over the next 3 years. So I told my dad that, hey, I want to teach hundreds of students over the next, say, 3 to 4 years. To which my dad replied, hundreds isn't really cool. Why not millions? To which I thought, oh my God, yeah, that is a possibility with platforms like YouTube, because they give you scale, when you're educating students. And I realized that the best way to scale something online, something in education, is to use a platform like YouTube. The one thing that I really love about YouTube is its algorithm. If your content is good, I'm sure YouTube will promote your content to more learners, to more viewers. And that's when I knew that, hey, if I create great content, I will be able to scale the idea that I have about educating students. And that's what really happened. The first couple of years were pretty slow on YouTube. But as of today, we have close to 1.4 million subscribers, and we've crossed 110 million views. So the conversation that I had with my dad about 6 years ago has kind of turned into a reality now, where we have, in fact, taught millions of learners. And the growth has been entirely organic. So to answer your question, Rob, one of the reasons why, I strongly believe YouTube is a great platform for education is because it will always help you win as long as your content is great. And the view that I had 6 years ago was to teach millions of students, and YouTube is helping me achieve exactly that. So that's the reason why I started off my journey on YouTube, and here we are.
So you have a platform that has the reach, and it also rewards you for focusing on the best quality kind of content, so delivering the best outcomes.
Absolutely.
So Gerald, what was your experience there?
Okay, so the story began. So actually, I want to make sure that everybody's here know the Kok Bisa is meaning how come in English. Action where you're curious about something. So why, how come that Kok Bisa is how come is invented? So the story began on my last college year. Really stressful, want to be pass the test or anything else. So me and my co-founder met there, and we also talking about how the media business is really growing. Maybe I can show a little bit picture talking about my stories. The first pictures, perhaps the KB one. Yeah. Sorry for the shocking pictures. So this is the image of what happened in the over dramatics. You can say over dramatics TV, soap opera, or anything else, but it's all across the media in Indonesia. We always share that because we are in the students of communication studies in the college. So we think that a lot of people talking about how it's gonna be, talking about writing, not talking about the educational content, and we miss the educational content in Indonesia. Actually, in Indonesia, we don't have a choice when you have to watch, you can say, an educational content. When maybe outside our country, you can choose the alternative between educational content and entertainment media. It's okay if you want to watch entertainment. In entertainment, maybe you can, let's say, watch like HBO, Disney Channel, or anything else. But in Indonesia, you don't have a choice. But you want to watch educational content, you can watch, let's say, Discovery Channel, Net Geo, but we don't have any in Indonesia. So that's why we're starting out this point. So we see that maybe it's too hard to starting out as a television station. So we upload all content in YouTube. Actually, there's a lot content, educational content in YouTube, but there's not in Bahasa because there's a language gap in our country. So we upload our content in Bahasa and talking about educational content with animation like anybody else in the world. So we want to make sure bridging the gap between society and science, because science language is really hard to understand for some people. So the thing is we want to bridging the gap. So that's why we starting out the English content. So we started like 2015, like now we are like 5 years, and right now we are the biggest education media in Indonesia, like 2.8 followers all across the platforms. So here's this is the second image. This is what happened in Indonesia. There's a lot of bad content right there, hoaxes, fake news. I guess it's all across the country, all across the world. But the thing is, we have dreams to have an alternative for people. Okay, we cannot censorship. We cannot block all the content, hoaxes, fake news. But we have an alternative to show, which is the good content, which is the bad content. So we can choose the good content and be right there. So that's why we started Kok Bisa and how we grow right now. I guess that's it.
So it's a great example of, both of you have leveraged the reach of YouTube, which is a platform that may not have existed just, half a decade earlier on the same scale that you have. But what was interesting, you're both very focused on delivering the best educational outcome. So you're actually focused on the quality of the content, not just the reach of the platform. I think that's a fascinating kind of takeaway which can drive the learning outcome forward. Next question is, YouTube is a business model in its own right, but your goal was not just to be on YouTube. Your goal was to deliver educational growth for your countries. So what exactly is the business model you're following now for each of your businesses, and how are you driving commercial growth, both whether it's YouTube or off YouTube as well? So how do you take what is a mission for a benefit for society and actually turn that into a commercial business model as well? Gerald, do you want to start with that one as well?
Okay. So the business, you can say like any other media, is, of course, the first one is by content itself. So you can say by AdSense, by maybe a sponsorship. So we collaborate together with NGOs, the government, and anything else to actually bridging the gap, like we talked before, like how we explain, like say the protocol of COVID-19 by the government, so we can actually spread the meaning, and then you can say we got the sponsorship by the government. But the second thing that anybody media that maybe miss about it is how we develop our communities, because there's no one in Indonesia before us that actually manage the community of the science. You can say the Roman ties of science. So the community of science, there's no one have this public lecture. There's no one have this kind of how to manage, how to become the educational content creator or the educators, like the maybe I can shorten one. So we can say, so based on our content and based on our community, the community is how we manage our audience to actually can contribute into our content. Actually, I have an image on it, maybe the KB3, you can show it up. Yeah, so this is how it's going to be go. The content, so for the mass awareness and also the engagement for the community. and that's how we actually sustain our business. So the community itself can also support us by, you can say, Patreon, or maybe for the memberships, and also they can. So we also have the workshop for them, so we can teach them on how to manage and make education content creators in Indonesia as well. So yeah, that's a cycle. There's a long form cycle, the engagement and also the content itself.
So the community are actually become part of your content creators as well.
Yes. So yeah, we can say that we are not aggregating, we are not managing, but we are nurturing them to become the next Kok Bisa in our country.
And so really you're following a media model, but you're also tapping the demand for spend on education as well.
Yes. So you can say the media model plus this engagement that some people really missing about this engagement between the community itself. But the community itself is make us sustain as well. So that's it.
That's great. And Ganesh, are you approaching it from a similar perspective, or have you? Are there some other aspects that you're considering when you look at targeting in India?
I think I really liked what Gerald said, about leveraging the community, the strength of the community. That's not something that we have tried to do so far, but it's something that we'll definitely try in the future, because your community is like your family, and if it goes well there, then I think it's a long-term game. If your community is strongly supporting you, so that's something that we will definitely try doing in the future. But what we've been doing is something slightly different. So we do it in four simple ways. One of the things I realized early on is that YouTube is also a great marketing platform for you. So we upload around 20% of our content on YouTube, and the rest of it is protected on some other video platforms. So one of the things we realized very early on is there are plenty of companies in India that really want to create their own education technology products. And one of the things with which they really struggle is video content. And because we had a goal to say teach millions of students, one of the ways in which we could have done that is by partnering with various organizations. So the first source of revenue, the first source that we started working with was licensing of content to other edtech companies. So licensing our video content so that they could use it. So that kind of solved two things for us. One is our outreach increased because we were able to teach more number of students, and second, of course, the revenues. So that's how we really began generating revenues. And like Gerald said, of course, once a YouTube channel started growing, the ad revenue also started helping us. So that became like a second source of revenue. The third source was significant support from companies like YouTube and Google. So we were one of the 8 creators to be selected for the grant, right, that we received last year in 2019. And the YouTube Learning Fund grant helped us create a lot more content, and it helped us start 4 channels on YouTube as well. So we started 2 channels in 2 regional languages in India. And the fourth and the final way in which we are generating revenue is by selling courses to our students. So our students really like the entire product, as in the questions, the assessments, the adaptive learning, and the videos, everything put together. So that's something that we cannot give only on YouTube, and that's something we give them on our platform. So those are the 4 ways in which I believe that Don't Memorize can grow, sustain, and educate many more students in the future.
And that's great. I think you've both highlighted the value of kind of YouTube for the reach as a platform. Obviously, the existing educational environment is still adapting to using new technologies. And I think whether it's ministries of education or educators and teachers, they're all kind of evolving. How are you working with the existing systems? So how are you working with, teachers and tutors and, those already in education, but maybe are not as comfortable or as familiar with the digital platforms as you are?
Yeah. Well, answer first, maybe Ganesh.
Yeah, Gerald, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna say it's because of the COVID-19, but this is because it's been accelerating because of the COVID-19. So before we cannot use the digital platform like YouTube or anything else. So right now all the teacher must do use the digital platform as YouTube or anything else, Google Classroom, anything else. So the thing is, here's what we do with Ministry of Education, and also so we have this kind of plan. So it's actually what we are doing right now. We actually nurturing the existing educational content creator, the educators, so they become another big Kok Bisa. So we actually working with Ministry of Education. We also working with Institute of Science of Indonesia and also the YouTube Learning to actually make the biggest accelerator in Indonesia. It's called Academy of Creators. I have pictures also, maybe to explain it a little bit more. The KB4, yep. So we just launched it with the Ministry of Education. So yeah, Ministry of Education, the Institute of Science and YouTube Learning. So we are all together to act. Like before, we only have this like an offline event, like only like 4 or 5 cities in Indonesia. But because of the pandemic, we can put it online, so everybody can join. So maybe the next picture, the KB5. So yeah, you can say that we nurture all these content creators from West Indonesia until East Indonesia, all across this because of the internet, so they can also become an alternative source of content. So like Kenneth said, we are actually one of the creators around the globe that have a grant from YouTube. So this is the second grant for YouTube altogether. So this is what we're gonna do from YouTube, and then collaborate with the Ministry of Education and also the Institute of Science in Indonesia. So we can make sure that educational content is accessible for everyone. So that's how we collaborate. And also the great things, because our national television doesn't have the educational content. So like we said before, like Kenneth said before, this is how our source of revenue, like content said before, is the syndication of content, the IP business. So our content can be published in the national television as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Ganesh, you started out as a maths teacher, right?
That's
so
yeah.
you know what it's like. So tell us how are you working with your previous colleagues?
So here I'd just like to say that I'm going to take inspiration from Gerald to learn from him, about what he's doing about educating educators, to grow their YouTube channel, which is I think phenomenal. That's something that we've not been doing, but like I said, I'm going to have a call with Gerald separately to understand what that is and see if we could have in India. But other than that, we've been doing something very simple. A lot of teachers have been interested in our educational content, and they've also been looking for a platform, in terms of, like, hey, I need a platform to educate my students, have my small group. So what we've started doing is we've started using a few learning management systems, and we train them about how they could have their closed group session for their. That's what teachers have been really interested in. So what we're doing is something very basic. And the goal in the future would be, say, to do something like Gerald is doing, to educate teachers to, have their own channels or their own platforms or something like that. And the best part there is that when you educate a teacher, you probably are educating thousands of students, indirectly. So every teacher, like, we see a teacher as having a lifetime value of many students, so we are able to educate many more students in the future. So training teachers or helping teachers with technology or content, educational video content, is the way to go. And we'll definitely invest a lot of time over the next 5 years to do that.
That's fantastic. And and if you do sort of expand that to India, then we know that we heard it first on Learning Matters. So it's great to see. It's great to see the paddle actually leading to direct outcomes. So that's fantastic, guys. Just before I ask the next question, just want to remind the audience that if you have any questions, please fire them in, because we're going to ask one more question and then we're going to turn it over to some of the questions that you've raised. So please type questions in.
Actually,
so
I just have one announcement also. Before.
Please do.
So when you said about the features on our business. So that's the things. So we think that maybe this is the right moment in all that matter. So before we only have this in Bahasa language English content, so we can launch the English content, which is now today. Maybe everyone else can also watch it right now. So yeah, here it is.
Sometimes it's hard for us to hear one another when we are outside. But have you ever imagined back then? In front of the thousands of soldiers and citizens, how on earth did the kings and generals speak so loudly before microphones? Of course, it would be still super hard to do speeches before microphones, even as loud as this. Yes, that would be as loud as you stand next to a jet plane taking off.
Okay. Thank you. So here's the really exciting announcement that we're gonna launch our English language content. You can find it out the Kok Bisa English / English. It's on YouTube right now. So you're gonna find out why on earth you can say before the microphone invented, how we can have a speech all across the world and how we can speak all across 1,000 of people and people can hear. So yeah, based on our curiosity, this is our content.
I'm going to subscribe immediately after this call.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too. So that's a worldwide announcement. Thank you, Gerald. So, another first for all that matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm sure, as we've seen across YouTube channels, they do reach across the globe, and certainly when you're in languages that many people can access. So I think good luck with that. I think that sounds like a fantastic initiative.
Thank you.
And it's also a great segue to my last question before I turn over to the questions from the audience. And that is really, we're really at the start of the next wave of growth of EdTech. We've seen massive investment in EdTech in India, in China, and across the globe. And it seems to be lots to do. What does the immediate future hold for each of you? I mean, Kok Bisa English is an immediate next step. You've got your kind of creator academy, but for each of you, what does the immediate future hold? Because there's much to do. Okay. Gerald, is there anything else you want to add to yours, or Ganesh, do you want to go first?
Maybe I want to add some. So this is our first step to actually making an English content. So it's become worldwide, like you said, Rob. So another things to add is maybe we have a dream to become like a Nat Geo Discovery channel. So we're starting out as a YouTube channel, but right now we are a media. So we have you can say our next goal, our next step is how we nurture our creators so they can also produce their own content. So like you can say in Discovery channel, they also have a Mythbuster, so we can find someone who actually have the experiment, and also we have this kind of animation explaining things. So maybe this future hold for us is become the media itself, and which is we're still going right now.
Yeah, starting the growth curve. Ganesh, you started out with a goal from hundreds to millions. What's next for you?
I think you gave a hint there. So it became from hundreds to millions, and now, of course, the millions has changed to billions. It seems to be a very far-fetched dream, but with platforms like YouTube, I have the confidence that Don't Memorize will be able to educate 1 billion learners in the coming years. And there are many things that we should really do in order for us to educate 1 billion learners. But I'll talk about two things here. The two important things that we're going to create, that we're going to start off with is one, we're going to create lots more content. And we're going to do that by co-creating, with a lot of educators out there. So there are so many educators out there who do not have the distribution, which we really have with a YouTube channel, and also who do not have the video creation skills. So what we are doing at the moment is we are co-creating content. So they become our knowledge partners, and we are the ones who give them distribution and say the video creation skills. And that helps us create phenomenal content, which could be converted to video format, right? So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to co-create with a lot of knowledge partners so that our knowledge repository increases. The second thing they're going to do that will help us teach 1 billion learners is to have a content in languages. Like Gerald started with English right now. So we already create a lot of content in English, but we would want to go into other languages. Right? So there are plenty of regional languages in India. So we have already started off with Hindi and Marathi. Then we'll move to Spanish and Japanese as well. So that's in the works. Unfortunately, the video is not ready, so I can't show it to you like Gerald did. But that's what we aim to do. So I think these two things combined, more content and more content in languages, will help us, say, educate 1 billion learners in the future. And my team, I'm thankful to my team. I think all of us are going to put in a lot of effort to make sure that we achieve, say, that goal of educating 1 billion learners, and we're going to do it soon.
I like that. I like that goal. 1 billion learners between the pair of you. I think you can definitely deliver that.
Definitely.
I want to make sure I get there's a couple of questions we've received from the audience, and I think I can actually collapse them both into one because it's a very similar theme. For those that are starting out on YouTube, so educators or learning institutions, they're still relatively new, and certainly Gerald, in the beginning when you started nurturing your community. How do you get it started, or what recommendations and advice do you give to those that are starting out that that you've learned from the start of your journey? Or what are some of the places that they should start and some of the things that they should focus on doing well?
Okay, so when we are starting out, so this is our learnings, our journey, how it's gonna start out, is how we define our mission at first. So yeah. You can say you have a mission, maybe to monetize. It's okay, actually. And maybe you want to educate the country like Ganesh did. So it's all started with a strong mission at first. So I always believe when you have a strong mission, when you have a strong will to actually educate your country or educate your audience, this is the first thing that you can always do. And then the second part, when you have all this mission, and when you have this why, and all the things separated from it, it's all gonna be ads. You can say maybe the method of storytelling, maybe the branding or anything else. But the first thing that we have to do is we have a strong objective. We have a strong mission to actually starting out also our YouTube channel. And this is from my side. So because maybe a little bit background. So we are, you can say we are a college student. We have a really small mission to actually changing the world through educational content. But we always believe that starting small is really the things that are better than really doing nothing. So yeah.
Fantastic.
I just try to add to Gerald's point. I think it's a phenomenal point. The why is extremely crucial, and what happens is people start off with the why, start off with the mission, but somewhere down the line things change. Your motives change. If that happens, you end up becoming not really successful, right? So the why is extremely crucial, one, and the question, right, is about nurturing a community. It's extremely important, and as like the question also talks about Brian Chesky. So the thing about Airbnb was the general rule about startups is it's better to have a few people that love your product than to have many people that like the product, right? So, and that's very true. And when we started off, we used to take a lot of feedback. So the initial videos that we had created were like 10 minutes long, 13 minutes long, and we used to think they were amazing. Just an example. And when we started talking to our people, that do they really like it? What do they think? And the feedback that we got was amazing. They were like, hey, we're not going to watch 13-minute long videos. Why don't you create 3 or 4 minute long videos and break them into parts? So that is one feedback that we received from our community. And since then, all our videos are just 4 minutes long. And that changed the course of our journey. And now there are many people that really love our product. So it's very important to nurture your community and hear them out. And that will probably change the things that you have planned for your future, as long as your why remains intact.
So guys, this is an amazing insights you've shared over the last 30 minutes. And I think, great takeaways I got from the session. One of them, start with a very clear mission, and you can't really have a more noble mission than, educating 2 of the, largest countries on the planet, and also the wider members of the rest of the globe. nurturing your community, I think, is a key thing, and actually it's really exciting to see how you're engaging your community to become the knowledge partners that participate. So not just consumers of your educational goals, but also actually contributors. And I think that leveraging a global platform like YouTube is really leading to some great opportunities to educate so many more people. And let's be really honest, in these times of pandemic, you realize that more than anything is needed now. So huge respect and thanks to both of you for what you're doing and for sharing your insights today. And I hope I would encourage everyone who's watching to reach out to you guys on the All That Matters profiles and connect with you, because there's lots more that they can do. And I know you're great partners with everybody. But for now, Gerald, Ganesh, thank you, and best of luck with your initiatives in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Gerald.
Yes, thank you, Ganesh. Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we bring the session to a close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
For listening.